Coming up tonight on YCN News, the proposed New Hampshire state budget was voted on by the House Finance Committee. The Vermont Economic Resiliency Project addresses the issue of flood recovery. And Lebanon, New Hampshire residents could see some traffic delays for the next couple of days. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCN, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region, southern Vermont, and Windsor County. News, sports, weather, and all that is happening in our area. The news on YCN, your local view.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, March 24th. I'm Laura James. Welcome to YCN News. The proposed New Hampshire state budget is being whittled away by the House Finance Committee. That, according to Governor Maggie Hassan. Hassan, in a news release, says the cuts recommended by the House Finance Committee go too far. The Finance Committee voted today to recommend passing its versions of House Bills 1 and 2. Hassan says the cuts undermine business growth and will take the state's economy backward, reducing money for the Department of Transportation and services for seniors, plus taking away money for health care, higher education, and tourism will stymie business progress, says Hassan. And the cuts may put more of a burden on local cities and towns to pick up these costs. Hassan is encouraging lawmakers to take a more measured and bipartisan approach to the budget so that necessary services are not defunded. The state Senate will discuss the budget, still a work in progress, early in April. In Vermont news today, the town of Woodstock is one of 5 communities chosen to plan for future floods. The State Department of Housing and Community Development is sponsoring the meetings, along with the U.S. Economic Development Administration and Governor Peter Shumlin's administration. Because flooding knows no geographic bounds in Vermont, meetings also will be held in Berry City and Town, Brandon, and East Nosburg Village. A public hearing where residents and business owners can learn more about the plan is set for 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. coming up on Thursday, April 23rd at the Billings Farm and Museum Theater. The museum is located at 69 Old River Road. Collectively, the project is known as the Vermont Economic Resiliency Initiative and is modeled after a project that helped Bennington, Vermont, get back on its feet after Tropical Storm Irene hit the state back in late August 2011. The goal of the Resiliency Initiative is to identify areas of risk for flood damage and shore them up before damage happens. If you cannot attend a meeting or if your town or city is not on the list, the draft recommendations and other resources will be available at the Department of Housing and Community Development's website at Plan Today for tomorrow's flood. Well, this next story goes out to Lebanon residents and other people who commute to the Upper Valley. You can expect delays, though city officials say they'll be minor, on Mechanic Street. The nitty-gritty work required to keep a municipality running is happening along Lebanon's Mechanic Street through this Friday. That's because sewer lines will be cleaned and checked. The work continues Monday, March 30th along Muskoma and High Streets. If anyone has any questions concerning this work, you can contact the Lebanon Department of Public Works at 603-448-3112. Coming up on YCN News, Governor Peter Shumlin announces a grant to help Vermonters with financial independence, and a program called Hands on Harps might be of interest to you. And the sunshine was out today. Will it bring warmer weather? Mike Pizzone will have the forecast and hockey news too when YCN News returns.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Laura James. Well, Vermont continues to be among pilot programs for national reforms. This time, it's a plan to help people transition from needed food assistance and into a full-time job. Governor Peter Shumlin announced today that Vermont will be awarded just under $9 million to make this plan become a reality. Vermont is one of 10 states chosen for this national pilot program. The grant will allow Vermont to develop and test innovative ways to help 3 Squares Vermont recipients find and keep good jobs, increase their incomes, and reduce their reliance on public assistance. Now, for Vermont, the pilot plan will be 3 years long. Up to 3,000 men and women may participate within the plan's first 16 months. People with difficulty for any reason holding on to a job will be the focus of the program. A number of social service agencies in Vermont will work with state and federal officials to make the program a success. Well, it's one of the most pleasing sounds the musical world offers to our ears. We're talking about the glissando. It's demonstrated by soprano and harp expert from Claremont, Angela Biggs. Let's learn some more.
Hi, my name is Angela Biggs, and I'm going to be teaching the Hands on Harps workshop on Thursday, March 26th at 6:30 p.m. at Union Episcopal Church at 133 Old Church Road in Claremont. This program is brought to you by the West Claremont Center for Music and the Arts, and it's going to be a lot of fun. One of the major barriers to learning to play the harp is the cost of the instruments. But for this workshop, the instruments are provided, and it's really one of the very few chances you'll have in your life to get your hands on a harp, which is a magical and beautiful instrument. So if you'd like to come, you don't need to have any musical experience at all. You don't need to be able to read music. You don't have to have played piano when you were a kid. You just need to want to put your hands on the harp and learn how to play a simple tune. By the end of the evening, you'll be able to play this. We'll also be playing several games, and you'll learn how to do this, which is the most harp sound ever. That's called a glissando. The harp is the only instrument that can do that in exactly this way. So it's a wonderful opportunity, and I really hope that you'll come and join us.
Sharing her knowledge and love of the harp will take place Thursday in Claremont, New Hampshire. A workshop begins at 6:30 p.m. at Union Church Parish Hall in Claremont. There's a suggested fee of $7 by donation. Biggs says she doesn't want to deprive anyone interested in taking a harp workshop. To learn more, please call Angela Biggs at 603-558-8174 or send an email to angela.biggs@gmail.com. This workshop is brought to you by the Opus Arts Project and sponsored by the West Claremont Center for Music and the Arts. Kearsarge Chronicles' Lynn Solomon will fill us in just a bit on the Library Arts Center in Newport, New Hampshire. That interview is on the way when YCN News returns.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. Boy, it was good to see and feel that sunshine today. Let's get to the forecast now. Mike?
Thanks, Laura. Hopefully you enjoyed that sun today because it may be a while before we get to see it again. Skies will remain calm tonight with temperatures bottoming out at about 13 degrees with calming winds. Things will start to warm up tomorrow with temperatures climbing to 45 degrees. The skies will be cloudy with a 30% chance of rain showers after 3 p.m. Temperatures will drop to 34 degrees tomorrow evening with a 50% chance of showers before 11. Thursday will be the warmest day of the week at 50 degrees, though there's an 80% chance of rain after 11 a.m. and throughout the day. Melting snow could also make for a foggy day Thursday. Now let's take a look at some local events in the community. A blood drive for the American Red Cross will be held tomorrow from 12:30 to 5:30 p.m. at Newport Middle High School. Donors are urgently needed. A rabies clinic will be held Wednesday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Springfield Animal Hospital on River Street in Springfield, Vermont. Cost is $10 per animal. The Ladies Auxiliary of the Croydon Fire Department will host its weekly bingo night Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at the Claremont Senior Center on Maple Avenue. The event is open to anyone ages 18 or older. If you're a fan of good hockey and a little March Madness, you may want to head down to the Verizon Wireless Arena in Manchester, New Hampshire Friday and Saturday for that other college tournament involving brackets and Cinderella stories. Just don't expect to see any teams from the Granite State while you're there.
For the second straight year, New Hampshire's two top-tier collegiate hockey teams won't be represented in the upcoming NCAA men's tournament. Play begins Friday with regional games in South Bend, Indiana, Fargo, North Dakota, Providence, Rhode Island, and right down the street in Manchester, New Hampshire, but neither perennial powers Dartmouth nor UNH will be taking to the ice among the field of 16 teams. Dartmouth was swept by Colgate in the quarterfinals of the ECAC tournament March 14th and rounded out the year with a 17-12-4 overall record, well short of earning a tournament bid. The Wildcats, on the other hand, capped off their regular season with 5 straight wins to clinch home ice advantage in the Hockey East tournament, but were eventually ousted by Boston University in the semifinals to cap off a 19-19-2 year and end any hopes of a long shot bid to the tourney. Those headed to the Verizon Wireless Arena in Manchester will have one local-ish team to cheer on, though, as the top-seeded Boston University men will take on 4th-ranked Yale Friday at 2 p.m. Number 2 Minnesota Duluth will face number 3 Minnesota at 5:30 p.m., with the winner of those games to play Saturday at 5:30. Whichever team survives Manchester without a loss will earn a ticket to the Frozen Four at the TD Garden in Boston on April 9th.
Avery Bradley led the Celtics to 20 points, and Evan Turner finished with a triple-double to lift the Celtics past the Nets last night in Brooklyn. The win snaps a 3-game losing streak for Boston, and now has the team a half game ahead of Charlotte for the 8th and final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. The Celtics will travel to face Miami tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. That does it for sports. Now let's hand it back to Laura.
Thanks so much, Mike. Now stay with us. Capital Connections' John O'Connor takes a look at issues pertaining to the Middle East. The next segment of his encore interview with a professor of history from Dartmouth College is coming right up.
The YCN News continues in a moment.